0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Riding up Adrian Noble, and here it comes. Blue McKick connects.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Devontae Smith, you guys are allowed to leave the classroom early today. You guys are dismissed. Everyone else, stay after the bell. Because, my goodness, what the heck was that, man? Oh my gosh, man. I have no words. I don't even want to talk about the rest of the week. I don't even want to give a recap of the rest of the week because I just want to focus on this Eagles team and the absolute embarrassment that they just put on national television. I have no words for what we were forced to watch. Because the first half they were very slow, the offense, but, you can't really put too much blame, again, like on the guys that were getting it going, because, you watch it and it's like, anytime they were on the field, other than a couple 3-and-outs or, bad plays, they were scoring, When we went into half, they had 14 points, but another big issue was just the difference in time of possession. By the halftime point, or by into the third quarter, Washington had the ball for about 30 minutes compared to the Eagles 7. And why was that? Because the Eagles defense couldn't get them off the field. They were allowing them not only to score, but eat up a majority of the clock. They were just running the ball. They couldn't stop the run. They just allowed Washington to just continue running that ball time after time. And it's just like they did nothing to stop it. They didn't make any adjustments to stop it at all. This was honestly, in terms of this season, this was honestly one of the worst defensive performances we've seen from Jonathan Gannon's defense. Just an absolute embarrassment from this defense. What was he thinking? He barely brought the rush this game. Anytime it was a pass or even a run, if you're having struggles defending the run, bring more bodies in there. And it truly just shows just how much the Eagles are feeling the absence of Jordan Davis. Because, whenever he's there, he clogs those holes and they can't get those inside runs like they were getting in this game. We let them run 49 times for 152 combined yards from their running back room. Their two running backs and a couple rushes from Curtis Samuel and Taylor Heineke. But it's there was nothing we could do to stop it. We did a pretty decent job isolating the passing game, other than Terry McLaurin going off, 128 yards on 8 catches. But everyone else, they were pretty much isolated. Curtis Samuel only had 2 catches for 28 yards. Jahan Dotson only had 1 catch for 14 yards. Pretty much kept them in check. And, they made Taylor Heineke, he only threw the ball about 29 times, and he even threw an interception. And they did get sacks. He got sacked 3 times, apparently, which, honestly, looking back in the game, I can't even remember when those 3 times were that he got sacked. I know Josh Sweat got that 1 sack. I don't remember seeing, or I remember seeing the Javon Hargrave one. Okay, I'm slowly starting to remember them, but yeah, but you compare it on the other side, and very comparable in the sense of Jalen Hurts threw it 26 times. He completed 17 passes, had 2 touchdowns and an interception, and he threw for 175 yards. And, if you're looking at that number and thinking it's low, it's because, for the most part, they were like, how do we stop Jalen Hurts and that Eagles offense? Just don't allow him on the field. And looking at that 1 interception, trust me, at the very start when I saw it, I was fully ready to place that blame on Jalen Hurts and be like, dude, what are you doing throwing that interception? Like, I get it in the last game against the Steelers, you're confident now in throwing that deep ball into double coverage for A.J. Brown to get after that Steelers game, but watching that game, I was like, that's not the throw to make until they zoomed in and gave us a different angle. And you see he threw an absolute dime to A.J. Brown. Got it right in between. And A.J. Brown caught it, only to then get hit by the second defender. And once he gets hit, he bobbles it right into the hands of the defender who hit him. You have to hold on to the ball in that situation. It's very tough too. But, that was just... That was such a bad turnover. And it a lot of people are going to end up using it against Jalen Hurts because they don't look, they'll look at the box scores but not look at the actual game footage and see just how perfectly he put that ball right in there for A.J. Brown. The running back room, of course, half the time when they're not on the field, but also because they're down in certain points, they're not going to be able to go to the rush that much, so they only ran the ball. It's pretty even. They ran it about 20 times, but there was nothing they could really get, like, the running game really going. Like, Miles Sanders only had 12 carries for 58 yards. Jalen Hurts, 6 carries, 28 yards, and a touchdown. And you saw early in the game, they were getting that going, Like, they were like, all right, come on, and let's mix it up. And they were scoring pretty well. But the moment the Commanders started keeping them off the field, that's when it was like they started losing their momentum because, it's like we're spending so much time off the field. What are we supposed to do? And, trying to remember, I think it was in that first quarter. Let me double check the play-by-play. But in that first quarter, yeah, there was that fumble where Taylor Heineke was sacked and Josh Sweat stripped him and we got the recovery, allowed us to go up by 7, but then Washington came back. And look, let me just read you the play-by-play so you can see this. So when the Eagles got the ball back, it only took them 3 plays because, they were very close in Washington territory. 3 plays, 18 yards. Took them less than a minute, 51 seconds. Washington's next drive, 7 minutes and 21 seconds. The Eagles' next drive, which ended in a touchdown, and the Washington one ended in a touchdown. The Eagles one that ended in another touchdown, putting them up 14-7, 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Washington comes back with a field goal. They took up 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Then there's that interception play from A.J. Brown. That ended our drive short at just 1 minute and 17. Had we caught it, drive could have been extended, could have even ended in a touchdown. But Washington gets the ball back. They go up 17-14 after scoring a touchdown. How much time did it take? 7 minutes that drive. Next play, we end up having to punt, 33 seconds, and then Washington's able to go and get a field goal right before the half is over, and they took about a minute. Start the second half. Boom. 1 minute, 24 seconds. We ended up with a 3-and-out. Next drive for Washington, it's a field goal. 8 minutes, 23 seconds. We come back with a touchdown. Took about 5 minutes. Then there's the play where Taylor Heineke throws that interception to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which, they flagged Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on that hit, which it was, it's disputable, there was, when you're looking at the refs, there was bad calls across the board. Probably one of the bad officiating games that people will point to when we talk about bad ref games this season, because it evens out in the end, if you want to say, but there was bad calls on both sides. They were saying they gave a personal foul to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on that hit, even though the guy was he was falling out of bounds, but he was still in bounds, which means you could still get the hit on him. There was the pass interference that they called on Washington. There was all sorts of different. Oh, of course, you already know. I'm gonna talk about it later. There was the absolutely missed face mask, which was unbelievable. Getting back to the point, so, you looked at all of Washington's drives, and it's like they were taking up as much clock as they could. And, it really sucked to see such a game tainted by calls on both sides of the ball. And going back, receiving core did the best they could. Devontae Smith, 6 catches, 39 yards, and a touchdown. Dallas Goedert, 3 catches, 23 yards, and a touchdown. A.J. Brown only had 1 catch for 7. Quez had 4 catches for 80 yards. We'll talk about him later. Not as good of a game from the receiving core. And then the defense, they had the 3 sacks. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had his interception, his 5th one in 6 straight games. No, 6 interceptions in 5 straight games, I believe is the stat. So he's had at least one pick in every game for the past 5. Really, really good. Hoping they get that extension signed with him soon. Gotta get him on the books for longer, because my goodness, is he an absolute ball hawk. And honestly, if I'm being honest, you might want to let Jonathan Gannon walk if someone even offers him a head coaching job somewhere else, because my goodness, tonight was one of the worst cases I've seen. Because this guy continues to not play Hassan Reddick in the role that he is needing to be played in. He had Robert Quinn playing coverage, even though he was brought in to help with the pressure. And he continues to play Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in man defense. So, yeah, definitely need some change there. But, as far as the entire defense as a whole, it's like I can't credit them really with much because of how just awful they had it. Like, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had the interception play, but other than that, they didn't do much. And part of it's on the scheming, because Jonathan Gannon just wasn't blitzing and bringing pressure to really make Taylor Heineke uncomfortable. How did they win the first game in this season against Washington? They made Carson Wentz uncomfortable and sacked him 9 times. How are you going to move away from that formula when you're going against Taylor Heineke? So I just really disappointed with that, But there's a bigger disappointment to be had in this team. And it goes back to the turnovers. I already talked about A.J. Brown's. But you get an absolute dime from Jalen Hurts all the way downfield into Washington territory to Quez Watkins. He catches the ball. The defender kind of dives to try and get him down because Quez also fell. Doesn't get touched. But remember, we are late into the game. My gosh, man, it annoys me so much. We are late into the game, man. 5 minutes left in the 4th. Absolute dime to Quez Watkins. He gets up only to get tackled and fumble the ball because it's punched out and Washington recovers it. 5 minutes. And with all the stuff that happened, because I'll go back even further real quick. When we got the ball again, this entire time has been 23-21. They've been trying their best to get Washington off the field. You see them struggling. You see them having these issues where in the previous drive that you got, you have a play where Jalen Hurts passes it to Dallas Goedert. He's going to get the first down. And he gets face masked. He's pulling him down with the face mask. There's a ref literally standing down the field, looking directly at it. Doesn't call the face mask. And the ball is... And Dallas Goedert fumbles the ball. And the only thing they can do is call the ball dead at the point. But they can't, they aren't able to overrule the turnover because of the fact that they didn't call the face mask. They can't go back and call the face mask because they missed it, So seeing that happened, at that point, I get, I didn't get touched. Let me try and get extra yards. But at that point, just get down. especially because as he's getting up, you could probably see out of your peripheral vision that the other defender's coming. I get it. You want to try and, get that guaranteed touchdown, but I'm going to give you a better example. Saquon Barkley this week. I think it was this week or last week. I forget. But the Giants are already up by 4 on the team. And, hold on, wait. Let me double check. Who did they play this week so I can... Was it wait. No, it wasn't the Texans. Was it last week? Sorry. It's because I saw this clip and I was talking to my dad about it because, it was kind of like, it was perfect in a way, and an example of what, the Eagles should have done in this game. My goodness, wait, when did this game happen? This might have been a really old clip that I saw then. Because I remember seeing they were up by 4 on a team. Oh, it was when they played the Ravens in Week 6. Yeah, they were up by 4. And Saquon could have easily, on this run play, he could have easily went in and scored. But he slid. And he stopped himself at the 1 yard line. Even though they could have gone up by 10, he saw there's too much time on this board. And you've seen what Washington's been doing with killing that clock and holding that ball. Do the same thing. Allow yourself to kill as much time as you can and not let Washington get this ball back, especially because even if you score at this point, Quez Watkins, you go up 28-23. Washington has shown that even though, yes, they've made mistakes and, maybe could only get a field goal, they'll use all that time up if they have to. So, just kind of absolutely baffling play where you let them... they got a field goal after the fumble from Dallas Goedert. They were up 26-21. So if you score, it's only a 1-point game. You don't want them to get the ball back in their hands and then just score a game-winning field goal. But, and I'll give props to the Eagles defense at this point. They did a really good job because they forced a 3-and-out again. They forced them to punt that ball. But then when they get it back with only about 3 minutes left, they end up having, with the 2-minute warning basically coming in, they had to punt. And then just another baffling play where it's a mix of things really. Taylor Heineke gets the ball, and instead of throwing it out, because at the time, if he were to have thrown it out, hold on, where is it? If he had thrown it out, there was still about a minute and 40 on the clock, probably, but he goes for the kneel, and the refs aren't calling the play dead, so Hassan Riddick goes in to touch him and stop him, but they're not calling the play dead, so Brandon Graham kind of comes in, and he slides. He's already in motion. He slides and ends up hitting Heineke right as they're finally calling the ball dead, and that's when they throw the flag oh no, he hit the passer and all that. And it's I'm angry in the moment, obviously, and I'm angry even now because it's Brandon Graham, you're a 13-year vet. You shouldn't be making plays like this. But at the same time, you see it's because you go back and watch it. The refs aren't calling that ball dead, Even though he's already given himself up, he's taken a knee and all that, they're still oh no, ball's not dead. And it's call it dead while it happens so that doesn't happen, because you watch it play back and it's they're taking so long to call the ball dead that Brandon Graham and Hassan Reddick are well, screw it. We got to go touch him or something. We're not going to let the clock continue to run out because these refs aren't calling it. And so that gives them more time, and then finally they punt it back. We try and do lateral plays, but it ends up getting passed, or Devontae Smith tries to throw it, but he's getting tackled while it happens. Ball gets essentially fumbled. They pick it up, score a touchdown. So the score is higher than it would have probably been had the game ended at that time. It would have just been 26-21, but they get that 32-21. Embarrassing loss, really, for the Eagles. But, it A.J. Brown was kind of saying, it ends all the whole undefeated talks, kind of gets that off their shoulders already. and just allows them to not worry about playing with that whole undefeated thing. And I know people are going to be like, oh, like I already have friends of mine, oh, they see the Eagles are frauds. They lost to the Commanders of all teams. But it's like, I will just never understand it because it's like, you know, I would never get why people look at the Eagles schedules and are so mad that they beat the teams that they've beaten, because it's like, why would you fault the good teams for beating the bad teams, you know? Like, I just will never understand it, you know, because you look at the Bills this week, they lost to the Vikings, which, you know, we beat. Vikings are 8-1 now. What's it called? But, like, look at the Bills. They've lost 3 times this season. They lost to the Dolphins. They lost to the Jets. And they lost this week to the Vikings. Now, the Jets have kind of been iffy, so it's kind of difficult. But they've been 6-3, so you can't fault them too much on that, you know. Oh, wait. I'm dumb. Sorry. I wasn't supposed to be looking at their losses. I was supposed to be looking at their wins. They've beaten the Rams, who have been struggling this year. They've beaten the Titans, who, despite being... What even are the Titans? They're 6-3. But they've been definitely struggling, especially with Ryan Tannehill going out. Beat the Dolphins, beat the Ravens. They beat the Steelers. Are you gonna fault them for beating the Steelers? You know, are you gonna fault them for beating the Packers? Looking at the Vikings schedule, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the Vikings schedule. They beat the Packers week 1. They lost to the Eagles. But then look, they beat the Lions. They beat the Saints. They beat the Bears. 3 terrible teams. Are you gonna start giving them crap for beating the terrible teams that they're supposed to? You know, they beat the Commanders. Are you going to fault them for beating the team that they're supposed to? It's the same thing with the Eagles. Why are you so mad that they beat the teams that they're supposed to, and then, you know, use it here where it's like, oh, look, they were supposed to beat the Commanders like they did earlier in the season and they couldn't. Like, it's this as if it's some kind of gotcha moment. And let the statistics be shown, the Eagles actually have the most wins against teams that were at 500 or above when they played, you know? When they played the Vikings, they were 1-0. And, you know, oh, it's early season. Oh, it's Kirk Cousins. As if Kirk Cousins playing football at you know, once the sun goes down on a Monday night changes anything, you know. Like, what a weak excuse. When we played the Jaguars, they were 2-2. They were at 500. We beat them in a pretty sloppy game, I will admit. If you remember me talking about it, we beat the Cowboys when they were 4-1, I believe. You know, it's like, you can't fault us for beating some of the bad teams. And it's like, look at the second half of the schedule. It's still, you know, not a cakewalk. We got Indy next week, who's 4-5-1, and everyone's going to look at that record. But, like, you know, you still got to worry about Jonathan Taylor in that game. Got the Packers next after that. You got to worry about Aaron Rodgers. Got the Titans, who are 6-3 at the current moment, and you have to worry about stopping Derrick Henry and getting by their defense. And then we got the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Giants in the later half, with, of course, the Bears and Saints being there. But even now, can I really say that we won't have to worry about the Bears when we've seen Justin Fields' performance these past 2 weeks, you know? So it's like, I'm obviously expecting better than this game from the Eagles, you know, in these next upcoming weeks. But I can't fault them like some people do, you know. It's just like, and of course people are going to be like, oh, it's because you're biased, you're a Eagles fan. But it's like, no, because look at the start of the season. I predicted them to have way more losses by this point. I predicted them to lose to the Vikings. I predicted them to no, I don't think I predicted them to lose either of the Commanders games, but I predicted them to lose to the Cowboys, especially because I think it was at home, and I was like, oh, they usually lose to the Cowboys at home already. I predicted them to lose at least like 5-6 times this season, and they've done nothing but prove me wrong. But, you know, that's just what it is. But with that being said, this wraps up this episode of Game Day. In terms of the whole game and grades, I really don't know. It's like I give the defense probably like a C at best, you know. The receiving room, if I'm not being harsh, a C at best, but I really want to give them an F. But the only thing that would save their performance from being an F is Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, who tried their best, you know. Running back room of what they had, give them like a B because they couldn't get it going because they weren't allowed to have the time to do it. And Jalen Hurts, you know, for what he was showing at times, I think a B is fair. But until next week, I can't wait to come on here next week and sound angry again because this defense will find a way to let Jonathan Taylor have a reemergence and look like last year MVP candidate Jonathan Taylor. But thank you all for joining for this episode of Game Day. And as always, many things in this life may seem impossible, but remember, if you fight for your dreams will fight for you.